This morning we're going to have some interesting conversations. We're going to be discussing the topics, new voters register. The EC Advisory Committee is going to engage IPAC to resolve the various disagreements. We'll also be talking about the Sino-Hydro deal. Arocha Ghana is suing the government over the Etiwa bauxite mining that has been proposed in the forest there. And then also Western Togoland, the story doesn't seem to want to go away. Radio host has been making comments and on the station and has been arrested as well. So, let me introduce to you my first guest, who is the MP for Shama, Honorable Ato Panford. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
How are you?
I'm fine by
it's
grace.
Good to have you back again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, how have you been?
God has been grateful. God has been grateful. It's a new day, for me. So long as we have breath, we say hallelujah to the Maker. I think over the week, we've just been pondering some few things, and then let me take this opportunity to also express my condolences to the bereaved families of the accident that happened, just around my boundary. My constituency share a boundary with the KE, where just closely where the accident happened. And then on that, day, I was also coming in from Takoradi to Accra. And then the site was very, very gory. And then we lost some families, lost some people, friends, and as a party, NPP party, we lost some key people in there, and then I think Honorable Joe Gatti was there. But it's a sad news. I believe that we need to rise up as a nation to do something about these, road accidents. Drivers must be very careful, and as we start in the year, I don't think it's on a good note. And then my word will go to our drivers. We all drivers. That we should be more careful, and then at least a bit professional on the road. And then. That's the sad news. But the good news is that to be one of your first hosts also on the day that you went on this DSTV.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
And then I'm happy to associate myself with Citi TV.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you on a day like this. The issue of the drivers on the roads, where would you place the most culpability as far as responsibility is concerned? Because yes, you can say that, the famous 13 curves, between Cape Coast and Takoradi.
Exactly.
So that's, it could be discussed as a flaw of road design. But then there's also the issue of drivers overtaking in curves, which, links to the issue of, number one, education of drivers, but then also the issue of enforcement of law. I don't know where you would position.
Well, in fact, it's a collective issue that we all need to look at it carefully. We have some road challenges, the design of the roads, just like you mentioned, and then at times even the way some of it, passes through our communities and etc. In some, jurisdictions, you really realize that communities are just off like a lay-by, just a branch of exiting the main highway and then going there. But then we need to also be careful as the road users. I believe that if we are careful enough, and then we should be able to follow the road signs carefully, and then if they are there, I think the Road Safety Commission will call upon them to rise up a little bit more, and then see how best these road signs that are even not there, like you just mentioned, the 13 curves around the place there. Some very important signals must be, And then I believe that going into the next level is that where we need to make sure that we have the security cameras, the roads, speed limits, etc., to caution drivers. Over somewhere, where even the moment you find the camera there, you just set up. They are there to caution us that look,
somebody's watching.
Somebody's watching over you. And then I believe that we need to look at it carefully. Drivers must be very careful. In fact, I know that stretch very well because I apply them most of the time. Yes. And during seasons like this, during the hammer time, the fog is there, and then visibility is also poor. So we need to slow down a bit, on these roads where we have such visibility challenges, and I believe that we'll be fine. But my heart still goes to the bereaved families, that we pray that, our good Lord strengthens them and then, takes care of the family behind.
Okay. Let's get into the stories for today. I'm going to read the first one to you, and then we'll come back and have a conversation about that. EC's advisory committee to meet IPAC over new voters register brouhaha. And the story on citynewsroom.com. The Electoral Commission's EC, was the eminent advisory committee, has called for calm following the heated arguments characterizing the election management body's plan to compile a new voters register ahead of the 2020 election. The committee has served notice to meet the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, to iron out concerns over the new register. The eminent advisory committee is chaired by a former commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ. That's Justice Emil Short. Earlier on Wednesday, the EC held a meeting with the committee to justify the procurement of a new biometric voter management system. At the end of the meeting, it was agreed that the Electoral Commission and the eminent advisory committee will meet with the members of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee to have further deliberations on the matter. A statement signed by Emil Short noted. Let me quickly read that statement for you. It's headed, "For immediate release, Eminent Advisory Committee of the Electoral Commission calls for calm." And it's a statement signed by Justice Emil Short. It says, "The Electoral Commission on Wednesday, 15th January 2020, held a meeting with members of the Eminent Advisory Committee to outline the justification for the procurement of a new biometric voter management system and the compilation of a new voters register for the 2020 general election. At the end of the meeting, it was agreed that the Electoral Commission and the Eminent Advisory Committee will meet with members of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee to have further deliberations on the matter. Meanwhile, the Eminent Advisory Committee calls for calm from all political parties and other stakeholders as they work in the national interest." Signed, Justice Emil Short, Chairman of the Eminent Advisory Committee. The EC plans to abandon its current biometric verification system and procure a new one which has a facial recognition technology. The Commission also plans to compile a new voters register, but these plans are being opposed by a coalition of opposition political parties known as the Inter-Party Resistance Against New Voter Register. The NDC is among the parties opposing the new register. The group maintains that any money spent on the register will be a waste of taxpayers' money. The NDC went as far as walking out of a meeting on the 10th of December 2019 when the matter came up. Over the weekend, the political parties also took, opposing the new register, took to the streets of Tamale in the northern region of Ghana to express their disappointment. Okay. So far it looks like it looks like the people have been brought back to the table again.
Yeah.
And what are your comments on the happening so far? I know that the opposition parties, several of them, about 8 of them, formed a coalition and said, look, we're not going to accept this, come rain or high water, we don't care, we're not accepting it. But somehow there seems to have been a bridging of the gap, and they have been brought back at least for a meeting.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I was a year time here,
yes,
and I expressed my position, strongly,
yes,
that for me, it is appropriate and it's timely that we need to do something critical about this voter register. And then the most important thing is about technology that is being used in getting the systems run. I still believe that, look, we need to upgrade our systems. I think I overheard somebody saying, from friends from the other side, saying that, oh, so long as you have a biometric system, it's okay, and that sort of thing. Look, you and I know that now, even when you want a better, bio data of people, for example, when you go to the embassies and etc., you don't only take your fingerprints, take your, facial and the iris, which are the key true identity of every person on earth. So it is appropriate that if the EC deems it appropriate, that the Commission believes that, okay, they need to strengthen the systems that, to capture the true identity of people on the register and make sure that they clean the register for us. I think it is quite, appropriate. We are in a democratic dispensation. I'm a democratic animal, So if our friends from the other side says, okay, they believe that they want to have some conversation about this, I think so be it. I trust Emil Short so much, just in short. I've known him for years when he was in Cape Coast.
Okay.
Yes, and I believe that the committee set up to engage all parties, I think they're going to do a very, good work, for us to hear both parties or parties around the table and then have a consensus position for us to move on as a nation. And for me, I believe that, it's timely. The concerns that some people and then myself have been looking over the horizon is that the timeliness of all these arrangements, the schedules, if EC, the Commission, is able to, tell all of us as a nation that, yes, they are capable of, acquiring these equipments and then ensuring that, they deploy these systems timelessly, I believe that, we should be fine to go. But as we've all been called, to the round table, it's only just appropriate for me to say that let's just wait and then have that conversation, and then we will have our positions and then make some further comments on that.
Now, we also have a national census this year.
Sure.
I'm a bit at a loss as to why we don't wait for the national census to be done. Then we can have a conversation about a new register, because there's data that you're going to get from the national census. Are we not doing sort of like, double expenditure? Can't we wait for the national census?
No. You see, these are two different, exercises, electronic exercises that we are going to capture. For me, even though they have some level of, relation, I believe that, if you are capturing data for election on your register, you know that there are cutoff points, limits where certain people will not be captured. If you are looking at comparing the census, trying to make sure that we get counted in the whole nation, everybody, we know the number for planning and etc. for the nation. But this register is a specific tool to execute elections. And then the age limits that somebody must be there, your full identity as a citizen and etc. All these information that So even though when you have the census done, it will have some relationship to the voter register, but I believe that we need to move ahead quickly and have the register cleaned up.
My last concern on this matter is relating to the issue of multiple ID cards. This is a country that, at the last count, I think there's about 7 or 8.
Yeah, we have almost about 8.
Yeah,
about I counted
different national ID cards.
Yeah.
I think we need to do better than that. Why are we having this duplicity of things? And isn't this part of the problem?
You see, my brother, the most important thing that we need to take note is that we've had a fundamental flaw where the capturing of data of persons in this nation has been flawed for over the years. What we need to do is that say the introduction of the card, that's the national
Ghana card.
The Ghana card was to bring all these cards, like a central point by just giving some key identity, numbers, so that at least ever card that you currently bears, will really trigger you to one card, and then it's very important because this for me also will bring back to the digitization of our whole systems and etc. Digital address system and etc. We've had all these sort of challenges, but I believe that when we start from this point, the system should be able to be correcting them gradually within a certain period of time. Because, for example, if I go to a banking hall and I draw up my Visa card, then the data there must link up to someone to ensure that it is really me. Interestingly enough, I went to NIB to make some payments of cash, and then I had to take the one of my cards. They said, "Oh, we want a voter's ID card." I said, "Look." So these are the challenges. How do you really identify me as the person that I've claimed to be? So right than from birth, the data capturing, and then we need to make sure that we trail it up through all. You'll be surprised also to know that we have some people in this nation who have even about 3 or 4 date births. Because he forgot the day that he was born, and then he went to the system there to register. Interestingly, he wants another document. So he goes there and have another.
It's a different day.
What system do we have? Robust one to check that. Look, Mr. A, Madam B has already been here. This is the unique ID number, which will connect all the cards together. But I believe that we should be able to be bold as a nation to take this digitization very seriously, and I believe we'll correct a lot of abnormalities within the system.
Well, this matter will not go to rest anytime soon. So hopefully the IPAC meeting should be able to pull everybody to the table. Are you hopeful that?
Yes, I know. We've had certain scenarios over the past where we have challenges here and there, not agreeing here on certain issues. But then finally, when we get to the IPAC meeting, you realize that issues will be addressed, transparently, and then everybody will understand what the processes are. If you raise up the issues, I think we have competent men and women there also to explain explain and address the issues as a commission. And then I believe in a committee that has been set up, which is the eminent, advisory committee, will do a good job for Mother Ghana.
All right. Okay. Well, we was going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's time for us to thank you very much for staying tuned. Like we said earlier on, we are DSTV, and welcome to our viewers on DSTV. The show is interactive, so use the hashtag BreakfastDaily, and then the WhatsApp line is on your screen, 0550-585832. Let me introduce my other guest to you. He is Honorable Felix Kwakye Ofosu. Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I'm fine.
You are very vociferous in your expression of your position on a lot of matters. How do you feel about where we are as far as the EC conversations are concerned? I know that the NDC has been vehemently opposed to the whole new voters register and so on. But it looks as though there seems to be a movement forward. As far as the IPAC meeting is concerned, the eminent committee says that they're calling together an IPAC meeting. Will you show up, and how do you feel about it?
Well, the NDC is always open to dialogue. Let me say that we welcome any form of progress that is made to get us out of this current impasse.
Okay.
I would say also that the impasse itself was entirely avoidable had the EC acted in ways consistent with its mandate and the expectations of the public on whose behalf they work. Now, let me start off by indicating that I have absolute respect for the individual accomplishments of the members of the advisory panel.
Okay.
In their own personal capacities and rights, they have excelled. Nonetheless, I have major difficulties with their functional necessity as an advisory body.
Okay.
I would have thought that given their eminence in Ghanaian society, they will better serve the national interest if they acted as neutral arbiters in any potential dispute that may arise between the EC on one hand and the major stakeholders on the other, in this instance, the political parties. But now that they appear to have tied their apron strings to the EC, they are stripped of the necessary neutrality and impartiality and confidence. Because mind you, the statement announcing the outcome of the meeting was actually done on the letterhead of the EC. It was signed by Justice Edmund Short, which was, in my view, was an irregular procedure. I would have thought that the Public Relations Directorate of the EC would put out the outcome of the, meeting or deliberations, so that that advisory panel retains its neutrality. Now, that is extremely important. So that when there are disputes, both parties to the dispute would have confidence in the capacity of that body to resolve it. But as it stands now, they operate as an arm or a wing. Or a section of the EC. And therefore, they are part and parcel of the EC. I do not see how they can stand in between feuding parties in the event of any disputation about elections to resolve the matter. But let me address the more substantive issues. You see, it is important to track back so that you have an appreciation of where the NDC is coming from on this matter.
Okay.
To begin with, we, and I believe we speak for a large section of Ghanaian society, have been completely displeased about the manner in which the former leadership of the EC, led by Mrs. Charlotte Osei, was supplanted and replaced with another leadership that we believe, based on their past conduct and posturing and positioning within the political space, are there to do the bidding of the current government. You see,
Why do you
I say so because, look, we in the NDC have had running battles with Mrs. G. Mensah. During her time at the IEA, there are many instances that I can cite for you where we detected clear bias in the work that she did as the executive secretary of the IEA. In that instance, you could say that she was acting in a private capacity and therefore was not beholden to any particular individual or group beyond the stakeholders of her organization. But nonetheless, because she had put herself in a public space in a certain way, you expect a certain kind of behavior. We were not satisfied with her conduct. We thought that at the IEA, she showed considerable bias towards the MPP. Then there is Bosman Asari, who we know for a fact was a patron of the students' wing of the MPP, on the University of Ghana campus, TESCON. But let me make the point. His views are known. He's tied to the MPP. Even in his capacity as vice chair of the Electoral Commission, he has supported the MPP in the recent debate about the referendum. He stated a position categorically, which nobody should do. It is akin to having a situation where Kotoko and Hearts are going to play a football match. And the referee shows up in a jersey of Accra House of Oak. I mean, how is Kotoko going to feel about that situation?
So you don't think the EC is non-partisan?
Because of that partisan history, and the manner in which Charlotte Osei was removed, and the way that these people were appointed, it creates the impression right away that what we have, rather than an electoral commission that is a public institution whose sole mandate is to conduct elections in a free and fair and transparent manner, we have essentially people who consider themselves appointees of President Akufo-Addo, in the same sense as Honorable Panford, to deliver elections for him. And since they've been there, their actions have consistently proven this point.
Let me ask a question. Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Do you believe that this current EC commission is not, is partisan?
We believe so. And it is not just a belief, it is founded on concrete evidence that I have given you, their history and their conduct. Again, let us go back to the issue of the register. I mean, the Americans have a saying, they say it flippantly, that if it ends broken, you don't fix it. I cannot imagine a situation where I go and buy a brand new vehicle, and without any fault being detected on it, I just go and give it to a mechanic to fix it. It would not make sense. Look, the current register, which was used in 2016, was the outcome of agitations by the New Patriotic Party in the immediate aftermath of the 2008 elections, which they lost. They were the ones who insisted on the introduction of biometric features into the register. So the Electoral Commission at the time, led by the Venerable Dr. Afarijan, obliged and began the process to compile a biometric register. So this was done between 2011 and 2012, if I'm not mistaken. It was used for the 2012 elections. And despite the claims made by Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP about being cheated, we all know that they were not cheated. They lost fair and square. In 2016, a process began to enhance that register. There was limited registration, other people came on board. And the 2016 elections are by far the most credible elections we've had in Ghana's history, without a doubt. I don't recall any single dispute that arose out of this election. If there is one, perhaps you can refresh my memory. Added to that is the fact that President Akufo-Addo won by the largest margin, perhaps, in the history of Ghana's electoral politics. From opposition, he became president with a wide margin, and they have not stopped repeating the margin, 1 million votes, 1 million votes, 1 million votes. So they won that election, fair and square. Somehow, the president suddenly contrives a certain problem with the register and says that the very register that produced him is flawed because there may be foreigners on it.
That contrived.
That is the issue.
But I'll make it a point. You recall that in the debate, yes, in the debate about the National Identification Authority registration, one of the president's position for insisting on rejecting the voters' ID card, which evolves directly from the voters' register, was that foreigners could be in possession of it. So he was disputing, casting a slur on the integrity of the very register that had brought him to power. You would expect that, having questioned the integrity of the register, he would do the honorable thing and say that perhaps I was not elected legitimately. But he prefers to keep the power, that he has derived from being elected on the basis of the register.
But isn't that stretching it though?
I'm not. But you see, if it appears as if I'm stretching it, then it goes to the heart of the logic of the president's position and the position of his political party. Because you cannot say that the register that elected me is flawed, and yet I will hold on to the power that I got out of being voted from that register.
Okay.
Then there is that matter. Then suddenly, the Electoral Commission begins to channel the president and the MPP. Suddenly, they also raise issues about the register. When they were pinned down to pinpoint what the exact issue is with the register, the response of Madame Jean Mensah was that the register was credible but overstretched. It is not too clear whether she means that the register has developed stretch marks or what. I don't know whether the register has some elasticity, which has been overstretched and therefore is no longer fit for purpose. But if you examine the arguments, look, in the recently held district assembly elections, this same register was used. 6,000 assembly men and women have been elected. 35,000 unit committee members have been elected. And all of these officials are legitimate to the extent that they were elected according to due process.
But you know the argument, right? The argument is that the voter turnout is considerably less, than what will happen in the national election.
5.4 million voters turned out.
Okay.
Out of that, 34,000 or so had difficulties with the biometric verification devices. That is 0.6%. It is insignificant statistically to raise issues about the register. Look, if you go to India, who are credited with having a robust biometric system, even with facial recognition, they recorded 4% default in terms of ability to register people biometrically. 4%. Okay. Ours was 0.6%. Before this assembly elections, the referendum had been held, and there was high turnout in those 6 regions. There was high turnout. Very few people had difficulties with their biometric devices. Before then, there was the 2016 elections. As I said, I don't recall any dispute arising out of that election. I don't know of any instance where anybody has raised issues about the integrity of that process.
Do you have hope in the IPAC meeting?
Just a minute before I come to that. Again, the argument then shifted to the obsolescence of the biometric verification devices. And we say we have no qualms with you purchasing new devices, except that you should just migrate the data that you have of about 12 million voters onto that equipment and do what you have to do to make it robust. They have raised a cost of argument, which is not tenable because the cost of replacing the equipment comes nowhere near the cost of re-registration. Because in registration, you have to set up booths, you have to employ people, buy stationery, buy equipment, transportation, feeding, and all of that. So the cost is 443 million, which, in my view, is completely wasteful because we do not need a new register to enhance the credibility and robustness of this register. Again, you speak about IPAC. You see,
IPAC. Will you attend?
But of course, IPAC is a standing body.
So
I raised issues.
You have hope.
I raised issues about the functional necessity of the advisory panel. I would have thought that IPAC was the body that is seized with the requisite remit to engage in dialogue, to iron out differences about the electoral process. Because elections are not just an event. All the processes leading up to it must stand up to scrutiny. If you read the outcome of the statement issued by the advisory panel yesterday, the central point in it is that the parties should get together and engage in the Electoral Commission in further dialogue. Did we need the advisory panel to tell the EC to engage the parties in further dialogue, when that has been the standing tradition. But it would appear that the current leadership of the Electoral Commission, for some reason, wants to shunt aside IPAC and do things outside of the remit of IPAC with the argument that IPAC has no legal locus. But over the years, it has served as well. It has been the platform where disputes about elections and the processes thereof have been raised. So to be honest with you, I remain, and the NDC remains unconvinced, totally unconvinced. And I believe I speak for a majority of Ghanaians when I say so, about the reasons being given for compiling a new voters register.
Why don't you wait for the meeting?
Well, the EC has dug deep. They are saying that despite protestations, and Bosman Asare's response to the demonstration held over the weekend in Tamale was that despite the protestations, they will go ahead and do a register. Dr. Kwaku has said
but he rather, Bosman Asare rather said he's open to negotiation and he's open to discussions.
Well, that is not the message.
It was rather the PR.
Well,
the PRO,
but the PRO speaks for the Electoral Commission, and since then, there has not been a public reprimand of any sort that would suggest that the EC is distancing itself from that position. But the point must be raised that the posturing of the EC suggests that they are presenting us with a fait accompli. Now, unless we see a clear change in direction, which shows that they are willing to take on board the concerns expressed by key stakeholders in this electoral process, I'm not sure that the negotiations will yield any fruitful outcome.
Emil Short says that he's going to listen to you.
Well, I do hope that the advisory panel will bring its credibility and respectability to bear on the process, to drum it home to the EC, that they must do things that are in accordance with the aspirations of the people. The independence given them in Article 46 of the Constitution is not to be overstretched and overflowed. It does not mean that they are not subject to criticism and demands for transparency and accountability and the right way of doing things from the public, who are the ones who foot their bill in terms of remuneration and operational expenditure. So, in a nutshell, we need to progress. In a nutshell, we welcome any progress that is made, but we hope that the progress will be substantive and it will not be normative.
All right.
Let me take a little caution here.
We need to make progress.
Just a little one. You see, when you are invited into a meeting for a conversation of that nature, it is going to be very unfortunate for you to, from the beginning, flow it up and say that, the whole system is a bit, we need to have confidence in the systems. Look, when we're talking about the IT systems, we have competent people who are very knowledgeable in IT system. So if they have to make any recommendations to the EC, I believe that they did so appropriately.
Fair enough. All right. So let's make progress. We want to talk about the Etiwa Forest and the Sino-Hydro deal. I want to read the story real quick, and then we'll have a conversation about it. Arocha Ghana threatens to sue government over bauxite mining in the Etiwa Forest. Arocha Ghana has served notice of its intention to file a civil suit against the government over its decision to mine bauxite in the Etiwa Forest. The group said it will be seeking a declaration that mining of bauxite in the Etiwa forest range, violates the right to life and dignity as enshrined under Articles 13 and 15 of the Constitution of Ghana, 1992. It will also be seeking an order compelling government and its agents to take the necessary steps to protect Etiwa Forest in accordance with its constitutional obligations as contained under Article 36(9) of the Constitution, 1992. An order restraining the government of Ghana, its assigns and agents, servants, workmen, allottees, and guarantees whatsoever and howsoever described from undertaking mining and its related activities in the Etiwa Range Forest. This was captured in a letter Arocha, through its lawyer Martin Pegbu, wrote to the Attorney General's Department and cited by CitiNewsroom.com. Arocha Ghana and other stakeholders have been calling for the protection of the Etiwa Forest deal, Etiwa Forest, as Ghana prepares to commence the first phase of the Sino-Hydro deal with the commercial mining of the bauxite set to commence this year, 2020, there has been rising agitation from some groups within the country and externally as well, especially from environmental and wildlife conservation groups over the fate of the Etiwa forest, where about 165 million tons of bauxite is estimated to be located. Let me start with you, Honorable Kwakye Ofosu. There are a lot of people have raised concerns as far as the bauxite mining is. Now, it's a bit of catch-22 situation. We need the money for the country to also develop. We need to do barter trades, these kinds of deals for progress and for development. At the same time, there are places of heritage. There are places of that need to be conserved with species of wildlife that don't exist anywhere else on the globe, and so on and so forth. Where do you stand with as far as this matter is concerned? What are your thoughts?
All right. I think there are 2 or 3 parts to the matter.
Okay.
Let me say that without prejudice to the outcome of the legal suit that Arusha has filed, I cannot help but have admiration for their activism. Because for the first time, we have a group of citizens who have followed through on activism on a matter that they consider to be important. Because one cannot dismiss the need for us to develop in a sustainable fashion. We do not have to develop at the expense of critical heritage, like you have said, and our environment. So we need to find a balance between exploiting our natural resources to enhance socio-economic development, whilst at the same time preserving the environment for future generations. And I believe that is where Arusha comes in. They have insisted that the plans that have been laid out to mine bauxite in the Etiwa forest will endanger flora and fauna, and that it will have a deleterious effect on the environment, and the environment will be destroyed in an irreplaceable manner. So I do not know the extent to which they have had engagements with relevant state authorities to derive the necessary assurances about whether or not environmentally sustainable ways will be used to extract the bauxite so that we preserve the environment even as we exploit the bauxite. I believe that the reliefs that they are seeking may shed further light on these issues, and that government in its response will provide the necessary guarantees. And perhaps if the court is satisfied, will make a determination as to whether or not government should proceed or whether Arusha's position should be upheld. That said, it is important to clarify a few issues about this Sino Hydro project, because then we become clearer on everything else. To begin with, I do not accept this tag of a barter trade. It is important because, you see, the impression is being created that this is the first time that we are using the proceeds of natural resources to pay for monies that we are going for. Okay. When you do that, you are not doing barter. You are simply borrowing against proceeds to be earned from the exploitation of natural resources. In 2010, the late President Mills, may God rest his soul, went to China and secured a 3 billion CDB loan facility. So the Chinese were going to give us 3 billion so that we will use it for a number of major infrastructure projects. One of them was a Tuabo gas processing plant, which enables us now to produce over 180 million standard feet of gas to power our thermal plants. It cost nearly $1 billion, and it came out of the CDB transaction. In exchange for that, the agreement was for the Ghana government to make available its share of oil from the Jubilee fields to a Chinese entity, give them the right of first refusal. The Chinese entity would buy it and then pay out a certain portion of the proceeds to the CDB as repayment for the loan that we went for. Before then, there was a transaction involving the Bui Dam under President Kufuor. So President Kufuor simply mortgaged Cocoa for that $700 million facility.
Yeah. But in this case, the IMF is saying that it's not...
I'm making a point. It is just semantics. President Kufuor just gave a certain portion.
How is it semantics?
You see, they are calling something by another name. That's why I've taken my time. Yes, you see, if you listen to me, that's why I've taken my time to go through what has been done before. In the CDB case, they took oil. But it's not that we just lifted oil and went to give it to them. We simply gave a Chinese entity the right of first refusal. So they will buy, pay, lodge the money in an account. Then a portion of it will be taken out of that account to pay for the loan, to service the loan that we are taking. Same with the cocoa that President Ofosu used to mortgage, to build the Bui Dam. He simply gives them cocoa, they pay, and a portion is used to pay for it. So here, the NPP government has simply gone to China to see Sino Hydro that come and undertake a number of infrastructure projects. We do not have money upfront to pay you, but we have bauxite. Another Chinese entity unrelated to Sino Hydro will mine the bauxite, market it, sell it, and then take part of the proceeds to service the loan. It is not a barter. You are not exchanging infrastructure for bauxite.
So what does the IMF mean by saying it's not?
So the IMF simply looked at what government had presented and said it was okay. But to say that the IMF is the be-all and end-all of economic terminology and explanations will be misleading, because people have disagreed with the IMF. We disagree fundamentally with the IMF. We have done this thing before. It was nothing extraordinary. But the NPP has a habit of making very normal things look extraordinary.
So would you ask the IMF to come and clarify?
It is not the IMF's clarification or the lack of it that resolves the matter. It is about looking at the objective facts and seeing what it is. That is what we see. Not that we think there's any problem with that arrangement. But they should come clean. The reason why they are going through that is to avoid putting that $2 billion on the public debt, so that it increases by about 11 billion if you do the Citi conversion. That is all. But in actual fact, they have simply gone to borrow money that they are going to pay through selling through selling bauxite that will be mine.
So Felix is saying that you are increasing the public debt, but you are just hiding it in some way.
Very well. I think he's just looking at it from his own lenses. I know my brother Felix, Honorable Felix, is trying to massage the whole issue. But you see, whatever is there by facts are facts, and then you cannot tweak it here and there. These issues came back to Parliament, and then we discussed it up, we debated the issues, and then we saw the merits of it for us to move it through it. Let me start by the issues surrounding it, resulting to the raids filed in etc. I will say that, look, as an industrialist and a person who looks at environment issues, before you start every project, we have a state-recognized institution, the Environmental Protection Agency, to give you the first report, which is the impact assessment report. And then I believe that my friends who's gone to the court will take their time and then look at that report and read it up thoroughly and look at what is enshrined in that report. Indeed, there are so many issues if you are going to, drill oil in the sea, etc. There are all, issues that will have some, environmental impact. But then, if you follow the recommendations of the report and etc., and then you work towards it carefully, I believe that even if there are any impact, it will be minimized to the barest possible. To set up a factory you need to go through that process.
But you're not worried about the damage we're going to have long term?
The issue is that if you have certain kind of impact which is there, I won't call it currently damage, but it will have some impact, there. If it is negative impacts, what we need to look at is that the report recommend certain, actions to remedy those, Let us be a bit scientific about certain things, the way we do things here. And then coming back to, I will leave it for the courts to decide, on this, using data and then facts that are available from the position of the EPA. And then I believe that our fellow Ghanaians will be very happy to hear what the rulings will be based upon certain documents, not just sitting here and then saying anything. Now let's come to the structure of this, whole arrangement, in the barter arrangement that we did. You see, if we will sit and say that we just added up, liabilities to our debt portfolio and etc., it is not as such. It is, we need to understand the way the whole arrangements were structured, and then look at the benefits that we will also have thereof out of it. I don't think that we're just going to borrow money or funds and that sort of thing. You see, when you look at the arrangement in terms of what we have, at least we have a fair idea of the volume of deposits which are there. If you will agree with me and look at the records of Busayak, that is a Ghana bauxite, they have not been able to even declare profits over the years, 10 years and etc. that, my colleague friends were in governance. And then it was quite necessary for us to come with a different approach so that we, as a people of Ghana, we will have the benefits of our own materials and our raw materials upfront to be able to get the sort of infrastructure that we need. Unfortunately,
we've run out of time. Let me quickly read to you a couple of messages that you've sent to us as you were watching the show. The Eminent Advisory Committee of the EC is meeting all the political parties will not change the decision to compile new voters register since the EC is independent and nobody can interfere in their work. NDC can go to court or boycott the election if they think the new voters register is unnecessary. Okay, this is coming from Sir Ewoku from Esuboi. Let me just quickly read one more. NDC is not ready for any consultation. They have taken an entrenched positions, and the EC must move on with or without them. I think jojoing and discussion is always the way to go. All right, we don't take entrenched positions. All right, so thank you very much for watching this segment of the show. I was joined by Felix Kwakye Ofosu, who is a former deputy communications minister during the last administration of government, and he is also currently the NDC Parliamentary Candidate for Abura-Asebu-Kwamankese. And then also we say thank you to Honorable Panford, who is the MP for Shama constituency. Thank you very much for watching this segment of the show.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed the show. Do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on Citi TV.